Start your week smiling with your friends, Kathy Zant and Michelle Frechette. It's time to get ready for some weekly motivation with WPMotivate.
Happy Friday, Kathy.
Happy Friday, Michelle. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. Always better after you and I have a chance to connect. I'm glad that this is like the best way to end a week is always. I know we say this all the time. It's like listen to the WP Motivate podcast and listen to Michelle and Kathy just talk about how wonderful each other is. But it's true. Like you just like help me get to the end of my week with a smile on my face. And no matter how stressful work is, no matter how stressful life is, just being able to look into your happy face on a Friday and commiserate a little bit before the show about what's going on in our lives, but also just find the things to be positive about and motivational and all that. I just love it. So thank you.
I am happy to be here. And yes, this is kind of like it just wraps up my week, no matter what's in the box. It's got a pretty wrapper and a nice bow on it, and I can live with that. So no matter
I
what
am
happens
right there
week.
with you on that. Exactly. Oh my goodness. You had a great idea about a topic for today. So why don't you kind of talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I listen, I go for walks with my dogs and I listen to things. And sometimes like I'm doing just like tedious work. So I'll put something on in the background to listen to because I know I'm just doing a little thing and I just cooking dinner. Here, headphones are in and I am listening to something that helps me with mindset and makes me think about things differently. And I started listening to this guy who was talking about how important it is to be of service to the relationships in your life because whatever you put into your relationships comes back to you. And I found that to be very true. My husband and I used to talk a lot about how everything in your life is a relationship. You have a relationship. If all you're chasing is money, you still have a relationship with money. If you want a relationship like a marriage, it's a relationship. People at work, kids, you've got relationships. So you are in relationship to everything in your life. And so this guy's talking about relationships and how he is managing his network of people in order to not like try to get something from them, like, psychic vampires. He is trying to push energy out and be of service to other people. So he looks at somebody who's in his network and says, how can I be of service to them through my network? Who can I get connected? Like, how can I connect person A to person B in a way that makes sense to both of them so that it's mutually beneficial? And he's like, I don't do it because I'm trying to make money. I'm doing it to be of service because I know the more that I make value in those connections with other people, that's going to come back to me tenfold. Value is going to show up to me. And I was just like, maybe chopping carrots or something. I was just like, yes, exactly that. And I'm like, that's what Michelle does. And I started thinking about some of the stuff you do in the community. And I'm like, you are constantly, I watched you in Phoenix with the WordPress community there. Like I had a front row seat to it of how you try to find ways to be of service, ways to connect other people. This is what you do. And so I started thinking about like what this he was talking about and what you do. And, I kind of do it too. I'm always kind of looking for ways to help support people of like, oh, well, person in Cadence community, you need to talk to this person and just make connections. And
you're always about elevating people. And I love that.
So I try to do, and it's what you try to do. And I just felt like this, I just feel really motivated by this whole idea of what you put out comes back to you. And I see it all the time.
I'm gonna absolutely slaughter this analogy, but I heard at one point in time, like think about negative, like that. Let's look at the opposite for a second, right? So negative thoughts and negativity out into the universe. If I take a drop of poison and I put it in the ocean, nobody's getting poisoned. If I take a drop of poison and I put it in a cup of water, I may die if I drink it. I may get sick if I drink it, or I may just be like, oh, that tasted terrible. Because of the several things it's dependent on several things. So how much am I adding? So how much negativity am I putting out there, right? So even the weakest poison, if it's a cup full, is not going to be good. And then how strong is the poison as the other? So I put a drop of the most horrific poison in a cup because it's the strongest, most negative, most heinous thing, and I'm still going to die from it, even if it's just a drop. So your negativity out into the world will either kind of just dissipate because it's something brief, and like somebody cuts you off in traffic and you're like, rah, 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 you know, like that's, it affects you in the moment, but it doesn't affect your overall outlook and things like that. But if I took on that, if I was like, I'm road raging and I start to like follow this person, now they're scared, I'm going over the edge. And then if I crash into them, right? So that you can see how, like, how intense do I make it and how much do I put into it? The same is true for positivity, right? So
Right.
if I'm a negative person with one positive thought, maybe it makes me smile for a moment. If I'm a neutral person with one positive thought, maybe it makes me smile a little bit more. And if I'm a happy person, putting out happy thoughts all the time, and that's the way you're going to live. So I don't know if that made any sense, but that's kind of when you started to talk about the connections and the positivity and putting it out there. That's kind of what I started to think about too. And it's karmic, right? So like it does come back to you in a karma kind of way.
It does. Well, and also I think the way we see the world, or the way that we experience people, says a lot more about us than it does about them, and vice
Mhm.
versa. So let's say someone's bad mouthing you, someone's saying, "Oh, well, you don't know what you're doing,"
Mhm.
or they're bad. You find out that they're like having like little powwows with their team, and they're like bad mouthing you, and it comes out that, so and so's bad mouthing you. Says absolutely nothing about you. Says everything about the person doing the bad mouthing, says everything about
Absolutely.
them. But you have a choice. You have a choice of putting a buffer between that stimulus of finding that out and your response to it, which can be, I'm gonna get them back, or it's going to be, I'm going to forgive and forget, or I am going to just not pay attention to it and go about my life and feel sorry for you, and maybe send some good thoughts to you that whatever caused you to do this type of thing. So it's like, you get to decide if poison gets dumped on you. You get to decide whether or not you're going to drink it,
True.
and you get to decide whether or not you're going to dump it into the ocean, or if you are going to transmute it. And I really do believe that we have that
Mhm.
power of, like, whatever shows up in our life, if we have negativity show up in our life, we can take that and say, thank you for the lesson that this is for me. And just like even visualize it as turning into a butterfly and flying away, and
Mhm.
just letting it go. And
Yep.
then it becomes nothing. And it's almost like a neutralization factor. And we get to do that every single day, whether it's somebody in traffic, or somebody saying something, or um a dirty bedroom from a teenager, whatever it is, or somebody waking you
Yes.
up in the middle of the night, whatever it is that
Yeah.
is just like rage inducing. Not that that's happened to me at all.
Oh gosh, me neither. I didn't get divorced over anything like that. Oh, did I just say that out loud? I think I did. No, you're 100% right though. What we put out into the world is what comes back to us. And sometimes it's little waves, like, or it's just like little ripples lapping up at the shore, and sometimes it's a tsunami. So be careful of how much you put out there, because it's probably coming back at you just like that. So absolutely. And I love that idea of making connections. I laugh and I make funny jokes in my own head at my own expense sometimes, about, like, I've often said someday I'm going to make WP Matchmaker, and it's a business matchmaker. It's like a networking, like, who do you want to know? I will introduce you, like, kind of thing, right? Like, and if I don't know them, I will introduce myself so I can introduce you. Like, just because that's how I feel like when I walk into a word camp, right? Like, I'm just like, I don't know that person. I'm going to sit next to them at lunch and I'm going to figure out who they are. And I'm going to be like,
Yeah.
hi, I'm Michelle. What do you do with WordPress? And some people sometimes look at you like, who the hell are you, lady? And some of those people are like, oh, well, this is who I am, and this is what I do with WordPress. What do you do, Michelle? And you make a new friend, right? So it is kind of funny though when you think about that. It's like, and it is about making those connections. I think of networking like all the synapses in your brain, right? Like it's making those neural connections with other people, and not just a quick like hi across the room, but actually introducing people to make the actual connections that help people get to know
Right.
one another. And so it's not just like I'm going to throw a spreadsheet together and show people like I could introduce you to this person, but actually to have an investment in how you do that. It sounds like the guy that you're talking about wasn't just like, I made a tool, but like, this is how I want to help you do better.
Yeah.
And it really does come back to you several fold.
Yeah.
I
Well, it's understanding people though. It's understanding the people in your network,
Mhm.
like there's some people that can be of service to each other, and knowing where those connections need to happen so that both people then become uplifted, and all you have to do is make that introduction. But as the catalyst for that relationship, you karmically invested, right? And
Mhm.
so you karmically get that payback. And all you're doing is making win-wins for people. Just like,
Yeah.
oh, person A, you can scratch person B's back in this way. And I think this would be helpful. And person B, would you be interested in meeting this person? Because, but just making it really intentional in doing so, and in growing, it doesn't necessarily, it grows their network, but by default, you're also growing your network and you're growing your
Absolutely.
investment in those relationships. And I was
Mhm.
just, yeah, this
It's
is so
awesome.
critically important. Good
Absolutely.
stuff.
And if you're doing it right, sometimes it's not even intentional. You just want people to be successful,
Yeah.
and you're not even like, I don't want to say scheming, that's the right word, strategizing. Scheming and strategizing are the same thing, but with different intentions.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not even necessarily about strategizing when you first start getting invested in helping others. It's not a strategy to help yourself, but that's a
Right.
byproduct. It's a byproduct. It's scheming if
Right.
it's only in it for yourself, right? But it's a byproduct of just wanting to generally be helpful to other people.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's just, I mean, there's tons of people. I know there's a few people in the WordPress space, and cadence space especially, who I see as valuable, not just to cadence, but valuable to WordPress as a whole. And
Mhm.
though, and I think some of those people too.
I believe
And
I do.
and by elevating them, they that it gives to so many other people. Like
Mhm.
there's one person that I know who should be on many stages and sharing their energy, sharing their inspiration, and sharing their knowledge.
Mhm.
And so to support that person, it's just, and I'm just realizing I have to do something for this person right now, as soon as we're done. Oh
I'll help
my
remind you.
gosh,
I don't know who it is,
I have
but
to do
we'll
something.
talk afterwards.
But
It's
to be, it just expands, it elevates them, but it also, each person that they touch,
yes.
it elevates them as well and creates these
Yep.
connections. And
And the ripple
yeah,
effect in a positive
oh,
way. Absolutely.
totally.
And I don't know about you, but like when I watch somebody else rise, and if I had even the tiniest part in their success, I'm so excited for, I mean, I'm excited for them anyway, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But if I had any part, like you and I both, like there's one person in the community specifically who every time he's on a stage now, I want to thank Kathy and Michelle for encouraging me, blah, 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 right? I'm like, dude, you did it on your own. If I had even the tiniest piece, I'm so happy that I was able to help you at all, but it was all you. We
Yeah.
just saw you and said you should do this and pointed you the right direction, but
Yeah.
your success is yours. It has nothing to do with me, but I'm just glad that I was a part of your journey, basically, is what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
um can I tell you about a time when not realizing how much I put out into the community actually paid me back in such a way that I literally cried for days? Happy tears.
Tell
Happy
me.
tears. Yeah. So back in 2020, I had a MacBook Air that I was using. I was using it for all the video processing and audio processing for podcasting. And I was also using it for work. And it was insufficient for my needs and very, very slow and crashing because it just, you shouldn't be doing all of that on a MacBook Air. And Allie Nimmons saw how horribly slow my computer was at work at Miami that year.
Hmm.
And she's like, oh, I have like a $50 gift card to Apple. If you want, you can have it to like put towards the purchase of a new laptop. And I had just left a bad marriage. I didn't have enough money to be able to go out and buy myself the laptop I wanted. I said, thank you. That's very generous. I just have to save up quite a bit before I'm in a position to do that. But you save your money, you save your gift card. I'll work on getting this done. Unbeknownst to me, she registered getmichellenewlaptop.com. She put Give WP on it. And then she went out and like DM'd people like, hey, if Michelle's ever had a positive impact on your life, think about contributing to her new laptop. And it was during lockdown when Amanda Gorman she texted me, she's like, I'm coming over. I'm like, okay. And she comes in and there's this wrapped package for me to unwrap. And it was a MacBook Pro. And it had been funded by 43 people in the WordPress community. I don't know. I was never given like how much anybody gave because it was irrelevant, right? It was just, and I was given the names of people who said it was okay for me to know who they were. There were some anonymous people. Hey, if you're listening and I wasn't able to thank you, thank you. But I was given the names of people I was allowed to talk to, and I DM'd every single one of them independently and thanked them for allowing me to continue to do the work I do. And most of them replied and said, that's why we did it, because we want you to continue to do the work that you do.
Yeah.
And at that point, it was like, wow, the work I'm doing has an impact on people.
Yeah.
And if you think that that meant that I just stopped there, no, because all the things that I've done since then were as a result of being spurred on in such a positive way by the fact that people believed in me enough to give me the tools to do the things that I do. So yeah, if you don't think I burst into tears and like sobbed all over the place, you're wrong, because I did. I still get teary about it when I think about it. Right now I'm teary. But yeah, it was pretty amazing. And it was just another one of those examples of good karma, right? Like you don't know what you're doing until somebody says, wow, you're doing a good job and I want to support you in that. So
yeah.
That's my example. And thank you to everybody who contributed, because what a difference that made in my life.
I remember it. And yes, and it, it just comes back to you, right? And you didn't have to ask. Somebody else saw the need. Somebody else made it happen. But it was because of your investments in the community that it happened. And you didn't, I think the universe sometimes is just waiting for us to kind of let go and let those things come in. I think all of us, well, most of us are pretty generous creatures, and we want to do right by people, and we want to do the right thing. And I really do feel that a lot of us are just in this waiting period, waiting for, we're not waiting. The universe is waiting for us, just waiting for us to open up to that deposit or whatever, that good thing to happen. And I think it's a testament to you that you were open, that you were open enough to give and open enough to receive and let that happen. So
interestingly, one person did reach out to me and blew the surprise a little bit, because they were concerned that I was going to that it was going to look negative on me, that I couldn't meet my own needs.
Oh,
and
really?
that it was outing me as somebody who couldn't afford a laptop. And so I said, thank you very much. I am in awe of the fact that this is going on, and we'll talk to the person. And so I did have a little bit of an insight that something might be happening, because somebody decided that they needed to put their negativity into it. But I still had no idea what was coming and how it was happening and all of those things that just completely overwhelmed me, or that it actually was going to happen, but yeah, it was just overwhelmingly amazing.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So cool. So I guess the lesson for people from this is, where could you very easily just take some inspired action to make connections, to lift somebody else up? Sometimes it can happen just by like saying, hey, I noticed this thing you did, and that was really amazing. Or just checking in with someone and saying, I know there's a lot going on right now. Are you okay? How are you handling this thing? And it doesn't take a lot of time to make those kinds of deposits out there in the world, in building relationships with people. I think
And it makes
sometimes
you
it's just
feel
like,
better, doesn't it? Doesn't it make you feel better when you Yeah. It's like when you send a card, I still send physical cards and postcards to people sometimes. And I just, because I know when I get a postcard or a card in the mail, it's like so cool. So, like, if I have your address, you might see something show up for me every once in a while. And like, that's just so cool. So, why not? Right? Like, just do it.
That's so
And the
cool.
nice thing about mailing something is that you're not expecting a response, right? It's not a DM where you like somebody's read it and they leave you on read or something like that. Like, nope, just went to their post office. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to do that so much more. I used to have this box of like, fun cards that I'd collect if I was at a store and oh, that's cute. And I'd just buy it and I'd throw it in the box but I've moved twice. It never surfaced again. What happened to it? It's
It's probably
somewhere.
in the same box as the punch bowl, like things that we don't actually. I have a punch bowl. Do you think I've ever used a punch bowl? No. I was handed down a punch bowl. It's still sitting in my garage. I've never ever. I'm never going to. I need. Check with me next week and make sure that I gave that punch bowl away because I don't need that punch bowl.
I feel you. I got a lot of that stuff too. The worst is books. My husband used to, and it's so cool to go through them all because he's not reading them out now, but I'll go through them and they'll have a bookmark from some like random, like Boulder, Colorado, used bookstore from like the 90s or something. And he'd just
Yeah.
leave the bookmarks in there. So I feel like I'm sort of unearthing like all of these travels that he used to do. So it's kind of fun. But I'm telling you, if I have one box of books, I have 40. So
Mm.
many books. And it's like some of them I'm like, okay, I'm listing them on Amazon and stuff, but I have so many things. We should do a
Yeah.
pack rat episode. Bring our
Oh,
like worst pack rat thing.
next week it'll be show and tell time with a thing that you really don't need anymore, but is still on your desk or something.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I have
I've got a
been,
lot. Oh my
what do
gosh.
they call it? Swedish something, like when you actually start to like, I'm in my 50s and, and I'm already like cleaning out my house so that my kid won't get stuck with all my crap when I die someday. Like she doesn't like that. It's sitting in a closet. Get rid of it, kind of thing. I can't remember what they call it,
Yeah.
Swedish sweeping or something like that. But yeah, I've already started doing that, and
One
I
of my
still have so much stuff.
Yeah, same. That's like my big project this year is to lighten the load because I am going to move eventually. And oh my gosh, do we have so much stuff? Like, yeah, I think it's Swedish. Well, my aunt called me once and she's like, I'm doing my Swedish death cleaning and I have some things
That's
to
it.
send you. And I'm
That's
just like,
it. Death cleaning.
I don't want the dead thing. Whatever you're sending me, just,
Yeah.
I don't want it, please.
And I'm always like,
My stuff over here. I got enough stuff.
I tell people to go ahead and send it to me, and then basically I'll look through it, decide I don't want anything, and I'll get rid of it because they wouldn't have otherwise. So I'm like, yeah, go ahead and send it to me. I'll get rid of it for you. I'll find it homes. So funny. Oh yes, it's definitely a good thing to put the positivity out into the world. We all experience the negativity so much, right? There's just so much, and I don't mean negativity as in like evil, right? I just mean tough days, really difficult times. My stepfather's been in the hospital like 3 or 4 times already this year. He's there again today. Who knows what's going to happen? It's not bad as in evil. It's just it's tough. It's rough. It's not positive stuff. It's definitely a negative thing, and it's just things that happen in life. But having conversations with people like you and Jeff in my office made me breakfast this morning. Like it's those things that just make you think, okay, I can get through these. And even if terrible things happen, I can get through it. And
Yeah.
I may cry and I may have a season of trying to deal with stuff, but the bottom line is that we can face what we need to because we can be positive about the things that aren't awful in our lives.
Yeah, definitely. But what you put your attention on expands. So the more we can put our attention on positive things, the more we'll have positive things to share.
Exactly. But along that line of things expanding, don't ever put regular dishwashing detergent in your dishwasher because it will expand like crazy and foam your whole house. I might have seen an episode on TV of that recently.
Oh, I was going to say from experience. Like, did this happen
Thank
to you?
goodness. No, although I did have, so this is my funny story about that. I didn't have a dishwasher, but I had, no, I didn't have a dishwasher. I had a garbage disposal, and it was Thanksgiving, and I had peeled all the potatoes down the garbage disposal because I'd never had a problem with that before. I didn't know that you shouldn't do that, right? And my stepmother at the time, and my dad were over, and so she was a wonderful person. She was like, well, let me help you clean up, and she's got the water running, and she's like, which one is for the garbage disposal? And I'm like, oh, that switch over there. She flipped it, and my garbage disposal basically blew up all of its contents underneath the sink. And then
no.
because of it was an old kitchen, like from the 30s or 40s, like everything was interconnected underneath. So like drawers were not protected from drawers. All the drawers that were next to that space, all my silverware, all my Tupperware, like everything was covered in garbage disposal gunk. It took days to finish. I mean, like you'd think you got it all and then be like, I smell rotten potatoes. Like, where is it? Where are those peels coming from? So, but yeah, that expanded quite quickly. I don't know why. It just popped in my head when you said that.
That exact same thing happened multiple times when I was growing up.
Oh,
so that's
no.
that's the joke now, is like on Christmas morning or Thanksgiving morning to text my brother saying, getting ready to blow up the garbage disposal. How about you? Like and then, it's my family. I don't know. Every holiday, it was like some kind of like major drama. And it was either, my parents would get into a fight, or the cat my mom would leave the turkey out to thaw out. And then she'd come down next morning and the cat's eating half of it up. Like, so, it's like there should have been a movie made about it, but that exact same thing multiple times. And it's like, we didn't learn this before. I just thought it was like, this is the family tradition. Like, let's blow up the garbage disposal.
That is so funny.
Yeah, so when I'm peeling potatoes, they go straight in the garbage. Like, I don't put anything down there. Maybe crumbs.
Yeah,
I'm
very careful about what goes down mine now too. Like, definitely no potato peels or carrot peels. Everything else pretty much. If it's soft, okay, but nothing that's super starchy. I learned my lesson. It just turns into a paste. Anyway, tune in next week when I'll tell you about the time I was given training bras as a Christmas present, and we can talk about holiday.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Nothing like opening that up under the tree on a Christmas morning with your two brothers watching.
Gosh.
There's a blog post there somewhere. Like, what was I even training? It's not like they do anything. It's like they literally just grow and stick to your body, right? Like, I'm going to train my breast to do what? Doesn't make sense.
Oh my gosh.
I'm tired. I've absolutely gone down the rabbit hole now. So we won't talk about that next week for sure, but you never know what we will talk about. In the meantime, everybody have a wonderful weekend. If you're celebrating Easter, if you're celebrating Passover, happy holidays to you. If you're not, enjoy the weekend anyway. And we'll see you next week on WP Motivate. Bye, Kathy.
Bye, Michelle. Thanks.
This has been WP Motivate with Kathy Zant and Michelle Frechette. To learn more or to sponsor us, go to WPMotivate.com.